One-liners. My wife asked why I have 11 flashlights. I said redundancy. She said I couldn't find any of them during the tornado. She's not wrong. Every prepper has a bug-out bag they've never carried more than from the closet to the car. Nothing exposes a man's preparedness plan like an actual emergency and a Menards 400 miles away. Prepper math: 2 is 1, 1 is none. And 47 cans of beans is just getting started. Half of prepping is buying gear. The other half is hiding the receipts. The most used item in any prepper's kit is the credit card. I've got a water filter rated for 10,000 gallons and a Brita in the fridge I forgot to change since March. There are two kinds of preppers, the ones who've tested their gear and the ones about to find out. My generator ran flawlessly for 6 years sitting in the garage. Long form. The bug-out bag. I've had the same bug-out bag packed for 6 years. 72 hours of food, water filtration, first aid, fire starting, a change of clothes, and a knife I paid too much for. Last spring, I finally did what I'd been telling everyone else to do and actually carried it, made it 4 blocks, not 4 miles, 4 blocks. Then I set it down on somebody's lawn and sat on the curb next to it doing math about how much of my 72 hours of food was cans. It was most of it. I have since replaced the cans, and I now understand why the Army made us ruck with weight instead of just handing us a packing list. The water filter. My water filtration setup is genuinely impressive. Gravity-fed, ceramic elements, rated for 10,000 gallons, tested against protozoa and bacteria, the whole thing. It costs more than my first car's transmission. It sits in a closet in the original box. Meanwhile, there is a Brita pitcher in my refrigerator with a filter I have not changed since sometime around March, and every single day I pour water through that expired charcoal brick and drink it without a second thought. I am prepared for a cholera outbreak. I am not prepared for Tuesday. 2 is 1. Preppers love to say 2 is 1 and 1 is none. What nobody tells you is where that ends. It starts reasonable. 2 flashlights, sure. Then you want to back up for the backup, because 2 is 1. Then you need spare batteries, and by the same logic, you need 2 sets. Then you think about what happens if the batteries corrode, so now you want a hand crank, and of course you need 2 of those. 6 months later, your wife opens the hall closet and 11 flashlights fall on her, and you try to explain that this is actually a coherent system with internal logic. She asks why you couldn't find a single one of them during the tornado, and you don't have an answer because 2 is 1, 1 is none, and 11 in a closet is apparently also none. The freeze-dried, 25-year bucket. Every prepper owns at least 1 bucket of freeze-dried food with a 25-year shelf life, and every prepper has the exact same relationship with it, which is that he has never opened it. 25 years is not a shelf life. It is a promise you make to your future self that this will remain somebody else's problem. You don't know if it tastes good. You don't know if your family will eat it. You have no idea whether the beef stroganoff reconstitutes into food or into wallpaper paste. But you know it's there, and you know it'll be there in 2051, and there's tremendous comfort in owning a problem you've successfully postponed for a quarter century. The range bag, I know men who will drive 90 minutes each way to put 400 rounds through a rifle they've already zeroed, and those same men have never once practiced changing a tire in the rain. The rifle gets cleaned that same night, broken down, oiled, wiped, reassembled with the care of a man handling a newborn. The spare tire has been under the trunk liner since the vehicle left the lot, and nobody has confirmed it holds air. In the event of societal collapse, that guy will be able to hit a man-sized target at 300 yards, and he will do it while standing next to a Silverado sitting on a rim. The grid down plan. Everybody's grid down plan works great right up until the part where other people exist. You've got the water, the food, the generator, the fuel, the security layer, all of it mapped out. Then you get 4 days into a real outage, and your neighbor Dave, who is prepared for absolutely nothing, comes over because he saw your lights on. And now, you're standing in your own doorway, running a moral calculation you've never actually thought through, because every prepping video you ever watched, skipped straight from the grid, goes down to you and your family survive, and none of them covered what you say to Dave. I'll tell you what you say to Dave. You let him in. That's the whole answer. That's what all of it was for. The knife. The average prepper owns somewhere between 6 and 40 knives. He can tell you the steel composition of each one, the Rockwell hardness, the grind geometry, and why the one he's holding is superior to the one you're holding. He will explain, betoning to you unprompted. What he has actually cut with these knives across all of them over a period of 15 years is cardboard boxes, one rope, and his own hand. The radio, I got my ham license, studied for it, passed it, bought the radio, programmed the repeaters, the whole thing. Do you know how many conversations I've had on that radio? 2, both with the same guy. His name is Ron. He lives 40 miles away, and neither of us has anything to say to the other. But if the entire communications infrastructure of the United States collapses tomorrow, Ron and I are going to be the only 2 people in northern Indiana who can talk to each other, and we're going to have absolutely nothing to talk about. The bunker guys. There's a whole tier of prepper whose entire plan is a hole in the ground. Not a plan for what happens in the hole. Not food rotation. Not air filtration maintenance. Not what 6 weeks in a concrete box does to a marriage. Just the hole. They spend 4 years and $90,000 on the hole, and the day it's finished, they stand at the top of the ladder looking down into it with the satisfaction of a man who has solved a problem, when what they've actually done is buy a very expensive basement they're not allowed to put a pool table in. Rotation. The single greatest lie in preparedness is first in, first out. Every prepper says he rotates his stock. Every prepper has a system. And every prepper has, somewhere in the very back of the very bottom shelf, a can of something with an expiration date that predates his youngest child. He knows it's there. He's known for years. And he will not throw it out, because at this point that can has been with him longer than some of his friendships. The get-home bag. In the truck. Every man with a get-home bag in his vehicle has a very specific fantasy attached to it, and it involves walking out of the city. It's dusk, the highways are gridlocked, and he steps out of the truck with the bag on his shoulder and just starts moving, calm, prepared, while everyone else panics. Here is what will actually happen. The event will occur at 2:15 on a Tuesday afternoon. He will be 19 minutes from home. He will be wearing the shoes he wore to the office. And he will walk to his house in about 4 hours, carrying a bag containing a water filter, a tarp, and 3 days of food, past a speedway that is still open and taking cards. Everyday carry. A prepper's everyday carry is a marvel of engineering and a monument to unlikely scenarios. Tourniquet, folding knife, flashlight, multi-tool, backup light, firearm, spare magazine, lighter, and a small bag of items he refers to as his kit. Total weight, roughly 11 pounds. Total number of times any of it has been deployed in an emergency, 0. Total number of times the multi-tool has been used to open a package of batteries for the flashlight, 41. The neighbor who prepared for nothing. Somewhere on your street, there is a man who owns nothing. No generator, no water, no food beyond what's in the fridge. No plan whatsoever. And here's the thing that will infuriate you for the rest of your life. He will be completely fine. The storm will come through, and he will be at his sister-in-law's house in Ohio within 6 hours, sleeping in a real bed, eating a real dinner, while you are in your own basement executing a plan you spent 9 years developing. He will come back on Thursday, tan, rested, and he will ask how you made out, and you will lie. Buying boots. There is a specific kind of madness that takes hold when a prepper decides he needs boots. It begins as a simple errand. 6 weeks later, he can speak fluently about welt construction, vamp leather, the difference between a Goodyear and a Norwegian welt, break-in periods, result cost per year of service, and the moral failings of the entire outdoor footwear industry post-2004. He will spend $440. The boots will arrive. He will wear them around the house for 2 evenings, decide they need proper breaking in, put them by the door with intention, and then wear his old sneakers to the range for the next 3 years. The family meeting. At some point, every prepper attempts to brief his family on the plan. He has a binder. There are laminated pages. There is a rally point, a secondary rally point, a communications protocol, and a code word. 15 minutes in, his wife asks a completely reasonable clarifying question about school pickup that collapses the entire framework. His teenager has not looked up once, and the dog has left the room. He will finish the briefing anyway. Nobody will remember the code word. When something actually happens, everyone will just call each other on their phones, which will work fine, and the binder will stay in the drawer where it has always been. Ammo cans. A man will spend $200 on ammunition and then spend another $60 on the can to keep it in, and he will feel good about both purchases because the can is real and heavy and closes with a satisfying clunk. Over the years, he will accumulate a stack of these. They will be organized, labeled, and desiccant packed. And every single time he moves house, he will personally carry every one of them himself because he does not trust the movers, and because deep down he does not want to explain to a stranger why there are 11 of them. The prepper who found gardening. There is a stage in the life cycle of a prepper where the tactical phase ends and the gardening phase begins, and nobody warns you how fast it happens. One year he's talking about perimeter security, and the next he's explaining soil pH to you in a parking lot. He's got a compost situation. He started seeds indoors under a light. He will tell you with total sincerity that a good tomato is worth more than a rifle, and the unsettling part is that he's mostly right, and the further unsettling part is that he seems happier than he was during the tactical phase.